Hey, True Believers, Chris Met coming at you with X-Force number 8. Now, if you remember when we went over issue 7 a while back, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is kind of the new band as Sauron and Toad, Pyro, etc., so forth, they attacked the team, and in the midst of it, spoiler alert if you haven't read it, Sam is ran through by Sauron's talons, and that's where issue 7 ended. This book, when I dove into it, if there's a tonal change, forewarning, and I didn't really know how to take it until the end. So I'm not going to try to spoil the whole thing, but I'm going to do my best to explain without giving too much away. Yes, I know this is an old book, but there's many of us that haven't read these, so that's why I don't spoil them. So with that said, the print date on this was March 1992. The team was Rob Liefeld doing the plot and the framing sequence art, Mike Mignola doing the guest penciling, Bob Wyatt doing the guest ink, Fabian Nikizia guest scripter, Chris Iannopoulos doing the guest letter, Steve Buccoletto doing the dressed coloring, Bob Harris edits, and Tom DeFalco was the chief at the time. So as you can see, this is Rob Liefeld's artwork, obviously, and we're kind of picking up where everyone's asking Sam, pleading with him to be okay with him to wake up. And you can just see that it's tearing Boom Boom and Cable apart. Cable because he sees Sam as a son. And at this point in history, Sam and him are, Boom Boom and Sam kind of have a relationship. And then I like how they're both kind of saying, wake up, wake up. It says, wake up, Sam, awakening. Time to wake up, Sam. And then as you see Liefeld's art here, if I can get my damn thumb on the page, we will turn it. Major artistic tonal shift. And this is where I was talking about Mike Mignola being the guest artist. If you're not sure who Mike Mignola is, he is, if I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments, but I believe he's both the creator and longtime artist of Hellboy. So if you go back and read Hellboy, the early ones before, other artists kind of got a hold of him, this is kind of his style, and this is called Flashed Before My Eyes. Now you're thinking, okay, we're going to continue on and see what happens with Sam, but we get this story with the Wild Pack. We have Grizzly, Domino, what's that guy's name? Bridge, and then of course Cable. They're trying to infiltrate this Hydra base. They've been hired to get this quote-unquote ultimate weapon. And what I like about this is you could tell that even though they're in the middle of a high-stress situation, that these are, brothers in arms and that they care about each other. Bridge is saying some rear support would be appreciated, and I like how Dom is just like, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. And while this is happening, Cable, in his internal monologue here, kind of brings the reader up to speed. He goes, we thought this was a Hydra research facility. We thought there would be minimal armed resistance. We thought right. And then like how he says, Domino jokes her way through it all. Bridge just clenches his teeth. This is what they live for. Grizzly, as usual, doesn't say much and doesn't need to. And me, I just keep everyone on his toes. Make sure no one screws up as if I thought they would. And so you can see how these guys work as one unit, and how they can kind of joke, but also be serious and get the job done. And even though you kind of get used to Liefeld's artwork through the early issues of this book, for me, because I've always been a longtime fan of Hellboy, I read that before I even read a lot of these early Marvel books. It's always a treat to see Mike Mignola's artwork, especially with Hydra, how he just bathes them in the shadows and kind of gives them that otherworldly feeling. Because if you look at them, they're more elongated, more just monster looking. I mean, and that's saying something with the Grizzly here, but yeah, some of his work can be boxy, but for this it works because this is a military op. And you're thinking, why in the hell are we going back in time and following Cable through this mission? Just bear with me. And then we come up on Kane and Hammer and seeing how that they're part of the team as well. And they're able to give each other a hard time without it being personal because, again, they're brothers in arms. And I like how Kane asks him, he goes, you know, Cable makes a joke and makes this reference that even I didn't get. And Domino says, what century are you from? What century aren't I from? Because he hops all over the place. And Cable's just like, how did you and Hammer beat us up here? He's like, what did he say? Hold on. Yeah. I got the looks and the youth. He's got the fist and the fury. Combo can't be beat, old man. And then down here, even though they're giving each other flack, Hammer says, it's not our fault. We're so good, Dom. And then Cable says, no, it's mine. Meaning that he knows that he trained his guys very damn well and is showing that Cable is the older one of the bunch. That even though he has the experience, he is, to a degree, slowing down and is showing that his troops are kind of starting to beat him in terms of endurance and whatnot. But Cable has the know-how, and that's how he's been able to run the Wild Pack, X-Force, work his way into the New Mutants, to turn it into X-Force, etc., so forth. And that's why everyone always looks up to him, because he's the man. That's why Cable is such an interesting character to me. Now, without giving away too much here, something happens when they're trying to get the device that's supposed to kickstart this Hydra ultimate weapon, which you kind of think is sort of a lame framing device, but it gives you some good action and suspense. Kind of gives you those like James Bond vibes in a sense. And then we kind of get this ticking clock thing with Baron von Strucker, which I don't want to give away. We're going to jump past that. Again, I don't want to give too much of this away. I want you guys to read the book. But spoiler here, you come to find out that the people who hired the Wild Pack to get this component back was AIM. If you're not sure what AIM stands for, it's an Advanced Ideas Mechanic, and they're not evil per se. They're sort of anti-heroes. They'll do stuff for good, they'll do stuff for bad. They just kind of work for themselves. I mean, they used to be the bad guys way back in the early Iron Man, Captain America days, but I think they kind of started making AIM more rogue because they think AIM started to bleed too much into what looked like Hydra. And so after all that, Cable goes back to the future to kind of just relax. And one thing that I found kind of creepy is, you know, he has these robot assistants, which kind of remind me of Helix from the Fortress of Solitude with Superman. He goes, how is your jaunt? Invigorating, Scott. Shall I remedy the ills of your ancient combustion vehicle? Yes, Hank, thanks. And I realized, I was like, ew, he named his robots after the first X-Men? That's kind of creepy. Because he has Jean, Hank, and Scott. They didn't have a Bobby, so I thought that was kind of sad. But at least the three, I guess, closest to his family or whatever. So after kind of Cable takes this sort of sabbatical from battle, he talks to the professor, who's kind of his AI, quote-unquote, man in the chair. And he starts talking about this person called, what is it? Let me find it. Hold on, I'll find it. High Lord. They're looking for a High Lord. And that kind of starts to intertwine with information on Samuel Gerthy. And I like how Cable says, do I know him? Not yet, but you will soon. And so here I think as it goes along further down the X-Force line, they tried to build Cannonball up to be sort of like a, what were they? An external, like Gideon and, oh God, I can't remember the girl's name. The one that pitted the Thieves Guild against the Assassins Guild in Gambit. Not Tamara. She's blonde. I can't remember her name. But anyway, that's what they've retconned it since. But it would have been interesting if Marvel would have just committed to the bit and let Cannonball be. But that's why when we come back to the Leafield art, we start to see Cable so infuriated that Sam's not waking up. So when you read it in its entirety, it's quite poignant. And that's why I said, when you first flip over that Mike Mignola artwork and you're thinking, what the hell, this is one tonal change from everything that we've been reading for the last couple of issues. it starts to make sense. And when you read it in its entirety, it's a really interesting way how this issue ties into, what was it, New Mutants 87, why kind of Cable came back in the past and formed X-Force out of the original New Mutants. So with that said, guys, that's kind of a quick review on this book. I, for the most part, really enjoyed it. I don't know a whole lot about Bridge and Grizzly and Kane, but anytime that I see them in an X-Force book or an X-Men book in general, I really thoroughly enjoy it. Same with Deadpool. That's why modern Deadpool, fuck no. But this old school stuff, hell yeah. Because Liefeld and Nikizia, for whatever reason, they just knew how to work off each other, and they actually, you know, X-Force was one of those really awesome books. That's why during this time, you know, Uncanny X-Men was good, X-Men was excellent, X-Force was awesome, and then Peter David on X-Factor. That's why all these books were so good during this time. And then eventually they introduced Generation Next, and that was, well, at least for me, was equally entertaining. I was introduced to Generation X before going back and reading the New Mutants, so it has a special place in my heart for that reason. So with that said, X-Force number 8. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little body slide button next to subscribe, that way as we can continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.